Beneath the hazy Manila sunrise, the city slowly awakens, tricycles rumble, vendors call out, and the scent of roasted corn drifts through the air. Amid this ordinary chaos, a single voice rises, deep, raw, and hauntingly familiar. On a cracked sidewalk near Quiapo Church, a man stands barefoot, his old guitar hanging by a frayed strap. His name is Miguel Santos, 34 years old, with tired eyes and a quiet soul. The world rushes past him, yet his song feels timeless, echoing through the streets like the ghost of a golden era. He sings with the spirit of a man who has lived 1,000 lives, his voice trembling with emotion, his tone wrapped in the warmth of memories. The people who pass by call him the Filipino Elvis. They drop coins, some smile, others simply stop to listen, because in that voice, they hear something rare, truth. But behind that melody lies a life of silent struggle. Every morning, Miguel leaves his small home, a single room where his mother, Rosa, lies resting on an old bamboo bed. She's frail, her health fading, yet her spirit remains unbroken. Every song he sings is for her, every note, a promise to make her proud before it's too late. His guitar is weathered, missing 2 strings, but it never fails him. It's the only companion that stayed when friends disappeared and dreams grew quiet. Through its broken chords, Miguel pours his heart, singing not for fame, but for survival. And yet, there's something divine about the way his voice carries through the noise. It doesn't beg for attention, it commands it. It tells the world that even in forgotten corners, beauty still breathes. As the final chord fades, a foreign tourist stops, lifts his phone, and begins recording, drawn by the raw power of a man who seems to channel a legend. He doesn't know it yet. But this single recording, born on a random Manila street, will soon travel across oceans. And one day, it will stun Simon Cowell himself. The sun had long set over Manila when Miguel finally returned home that evening. His fingers ached from strumming, his throat burned, but his heart carried a quiet peace, the peace that comes only when one has given their soul to the song. In the corner of their dimly lit room, Rosa lay half asleep, listening to the distant hum of traffic. Miguel placed his guitar gently beside her bed, whispering a silent prayer for tomorrow's strength. He never imagined that somewhere, across the world, his voice was already traveling, carried through the invisible veins of the internet, reaching hearts he'd never meet. That tourist's video, shaky, grainy, unedited, was uploaded with a simple caption. The Filipino Elvis, a voice the world needs to hear. Within hours, something extraordinary began to happen. The clip was shared, reshared, and shared again. In London, an old man paused mid-scroll, tears welling as he whispered, "He sounds just like Elvis." In New York, a teenage musician replayed it 10 times, feeling inspired to chase his own dreams. Across Asia, comments flooded in, prayers, admiration, disbelief. Miguel didn't know that his humble voice was waking the world. 3 days later, his phone buzzed continuously. At first, he ignored it, he didn't have enough data to watch videos. But then, a neighbor rushed in, breathless and smiling, showing him the same clip, his clip, now with millions of views. Miguel stared at the screen in disbelief. His old shirt, his broken guitar, his trembling voice, all there, reaching people across oceans. For the first time in years, he felt seen. Thousands of comments called him the voice of hope, the Filipino Elvis, the man who sings from his soul. In Los Angeles, miles away, David Miller, a senior producer for America's Got Talent, watched that same video late one night. Amid countless auditions and endless clips, this one felt different. The emotion, the honesty, it was pure. He sat forward, eyes shining. With a single click, David drafted an email. "Dear Miguel, we'd love to invite you to audition for AGT 2025. Back in Manila, Miguel opened his inbox, and for a moment, time stood still. Tears blurred his vision as his mother smiled weakly from her bed. The world had finally heard his song. The world outside the airplane window looked endless, clouds like floating mountains, sunlight glimmering on the horizon. For Miguel Santos, this was not just a flight to America. It was a flight toward everything he had ever dreamed but never dared to believe. He sat quietly, clutching his old guitar case to his chest. The wood was cracked, the edges worn smooth by years of use, yet it carried his entire life within it, the echoes of the streets, the laughter of strangers, the prayers of his mother. When he finally stepped into the dazzling halls of the America's Got Talent studio, he felt small. The walls gleamed, the lights burned bright, and the stage, vast and intimidating, seemed to whisper his fears back to him. Around him, performers from all over the world warmed up, dancers, singers, magicians, each with their own story, their own hunger for a dream. Miguel stood silently at the corner, eyes closed, taking a deep breath. He wasn't there to compete. He was there to give thanks. When his name was called, he walked slowly to the center of the stage. The crowd quieted. Cameras zoomed in. The judges, Simon Cowell, Sofia Vergara, Heidi Klum, and Howie Mandel, looked at him curiously. Miguel adjusted his mic, his hands trembling. The stage lights blinded him, yet somewhere in that brightness, he imagined his mother's face, fragile, smiling, proud. He thought of the Manila mornings, the smell of roasted corn, the sound of traffic, the clinking of coins in his guitar case. Then, he began to sing. The first notes of "Can't Help Falling in Love" flowed softly, like a whisper carried on wind. The tone was rich, deep, soaked in the ache of years. Every line he sang carried a memory, hunger, hope, and heartbreak woven together into something unexplainable. The audience leaned forward, captivated. Simon's expression softened, his usual sharp gaze melted into something almost childlike. The sound filling the arena was not imitation, it was resurrection. By the final line, the hall was silent, not in emptiness, but in awe. Then, as Miguel strummed his last chord, the silence shattered into thunderous applause. The dream had begun, and the world would never forget the name Miguel Santos. The final note hung in the air like a prayer suspended between heaven and earth. For a few heartbeats, no one moved, as if time itself had forgotten to breathe. Miguel stood there beneath the glowing lights, his chest rising and falling, his eyes glistening with tears he tried to hold back. And then it happened. The audience rose, thousands of people, united in a single wave of applause that roared like thunder across the arena. Some clapped wildly, others wept openly. For them, this wasn't just another performance. It was a glimpse into something rare, pure, unfiltered emotion in its truest form. Simon Cowell leaned forward, elbows resting on the table, his expression unreadable. For a man known for his stern criticism, there was something different in his eyes tonight, a quiet tremble, a rare softness. He had seen countless performers chase fame, but this one sang like a man who had nothing to prove, yet everything to give. Miguel stood still, head bowed, hands shaking around the microphone. He had given his heart to the song, expecting nothing. And yet, before he could even take a breath, Simon's hand moved toward the golden button. In a single, breathtaking moment, Simon pressed it. A golden explosion filled the air. Confetti rained from the ceiling like a shower of blessings. The lights turned warm, glowing, almost divine. Miguel's face tilted upward as gold flakes landed on his hair, his shoulders, his trembling hands. He fell to his knees, not from shock, but from overwhelming gratitude. For years, he had sung to survive. Now, he was singing to live. Back in Manila, Rosa sat before a flickering television, her hand pressed to her lips. Her frail body trembled as she watched her son kneel beneath a golden storm on the world's grandest stage. She whispered through tears, her voice barely audible, a mother's prayer finally answered. In that moment, oceans and miles dissolved. The boy from the streets of Manila had become a voice that touched the world. And as the gold continued to fall, Miguel closed his eyes, whispering softly in his heart. For you, Mama, for every dream that never gave up. Months had passed since that golden night, the night the world met Miguel Santos, the Filipino street singer who silenced an arena and made Simon Cowell cry. Yet even now, when people replayed that moment online, they still felt chills. It wasn't just about the voice. It was about the soul behind it, the story of a man who sang not to be famous, but to be heard. Miguel's journey through the competition became a global phenomenon. Every week, he stood on that grand stage, not with costumes or gimmicks, but with humility and heart. The audience didn't just see a singer, they saw hope itself in human form. When he finally stood under the bright lights of the finale, he didn't care about winning. He already had everything he had ever wanted, a purpose, a platform, and peace. After AGT ended, Miguel chose a different path from most stars. Instead of chasing fame in Los Angeles, he returned home to Manila, to the narrow alleys that once echoed his songs. Reporters called him a hero, fans crowded the airport, but he only smiled, holding his mother's hand gently as they stepped out into the familiar morning light. With his prize money, Miguel opened a small music school for street children, a quiet, colorful place painted with murals of hope. He taught them how to sing, how to dream, and how to believe that even broken voices can heal the world. Every strum of their guitars, every trembling note, reminded him of the boy he once was. Sometimes, Simon Cowell would call him just to say how proud he was. Other times, Miguel would receive letters from across the world, from strangers who said his story gave them strength to keep going. On quiet mornings, Miguel still sang outside his home. Not for coins, but for gratitude, to thank the life that once tested him, and the world that finally listened. As the golden Manila sunrise returned once more, the narrator's voice faded softly. Some voices rise to win applause, but a few rise to heal hearts. And sometimes, the most powerful songs come from the humblest corners of the earth.